R is not positive. Or not negative, sorry. R is positive, always. It's the radius. What about X? Positive or negative? To get to my X coordinate. Going this way.
Negative.
It is negative because I'm going to the left, right? Or correct. And what about Y?
Negative.
It's also negative because I'm going down on the x-axis. So we have opposite and adjacent, hypotenuse. If we're looking at SOHCAHTOA, which one's going to turn out to be positive? Yeah, tangent. And the reason why tangent does is because you put opposite over adjacent, and both of those are negative. And we know if you have a negative over a negative, it's going to be positive. Okay, so in the last quadrant, this is our fourth quadrant. Radius is always positive. Is X going to be positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, because I'm going to the right. What about Y?
Negative.
Negative, because I'm going down. So, which one? Sine, cosine, or tangent is positive? Yep. Because cosine uses opposite or adjacent, which is right here, over hypotenuse, and both of those are positive. So I put all that together without drawing it out each time. I figure you won't want to do that. I wouldn't either. Just in the four quadrants, it always goes, it's the way I remember it, is all students take calculus. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is just telling us which ones are positive. So A, of course, stood for all. And all of them are positive. Now, I've only been talking about sine, cosine, and tangent. But the reciprocals are also positive. Reciprocals just mean you take it and you flip it over. You don't change any of the signs. It's not like perpendicular lines when you have to change the sign too. So if sine is positive, then cosecant is also positive because they're reciprocals. Cosine is positive. Secant is also positive. I don't know if I said that right the first time. Sine and cosecant. Cosine and secant. Tangent and cotangent. So number 2 here is sine, of course, and it's reciprocal. Quadrant 3 is tangent, and it's reciprocal. And quadrant 4 is cosine, and it's reciprocal. So what we just went over narrows down into this. So on page 572, now I think we're ready to go into this. We're going to look at A. We're just determining which quadrant or axis that each angle is in, the quadrant where it terminates. So like for A, it tells us that cosine is greater than 0. So that means it's positive. Think back to the quadrants we just drew. in which quadrants is cosine positive?
4.
4. Where else is cosine positive?
1.
1. Yeah. 1 and 4. Both. Well, cosine and all of them. So cosine is also it's positive in both 1 and 4. Now we look at tangent. For this one, it's where tangent is negative because it's less than 0. So in which quadrants is tangent negative?
2.
2 and 4. Not third. What is tangent in the third quadrant? Positive. Because they both were negative. You're right. So we're looking for where it's negative. That would be in the second quadrant because only sine is positive in the second quadrant. And in the fourth quadrant because only cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant. So our answer is where those two overlap because we're looking for where the cosine is positive and the tangent is negative. So they overlap in quadrant 4.
Wait, what does the blue stand for?
The blue was for tangent, and the red was for cosine.
What does that say after cosine?
Cosine is,
Positive and tangent is negative.
yeah. Yes, ma'am.
How do you tell if it's positive or negative?
That's what we were just talking about here. All the letters here stand for where it's positive. So they're all positive here. Sine is positive here, so that means everything else is negative. Tangent is positive here, and cosine is positive here. So these are where it's positive. So it was all students take calculus.
So how do you get negative out of
Negative would be the opposite. So if it's not listed, like this is cosine, the other two would have to be negative then. So you have toa. So this is cosine. The other two would be sine and tangent. So if cosine's the only one positive here, then sine and tangent have to be the opposite. So it's whichever ones aren't listed are negative. So like on 1, they're all positive. On 2, only sine's positive, so that means cosine and tangent have to be negative. And if tangent's positive here, then the rest of them have to be negative. And so on. So for example, this next one, it says tangent, which we can figure out, and then cosecant. We don't have one for cosecant. But cosecant is the reciprocal of what? Sine. Cosecant and sine are reciprocals. So if it tells you that cosecant is less than 0, then you should know that that also means its reciprocal has to be less than 0 too. So you try to figure out which quadrant these two are both true, just like I did on A. Feel free to work together, check each other.
yet. Not caught up. Not at all. Okay.
There's only two options. It's either positive or it's negative. So like all these letters here, this is telling you which ones are positive. And then so the other ones are negative. You only have sine, cosine, and tangent. Just for the main three. So if cosine is positive, then the other two are negative. That's it. Is that what you were asking? How do you find the other one?
No, I don't know how to find like the negative of like cosecant.
Oh, the reciprocal or the negative. See, that's what this part is. This is from, let's see, the 63 and 64 stuff when we listed all those reciprocals.